What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Devy Royale YouTube channel. I am your host, Kevin Coleman, and we're back, and it's Monday, so that means we're going to do some type of mock draft, and today we're going to be doing another Dynasty mock draft, and so we're going to be looking at, when we do these, we just do 12 rounds. Now, for the parameters of this mock, so how we kind of did this, it is a 12-team Superflex, but this one has a third-round reversal. So if you don't know what a third-round reversal is, essentially you go through the first two rounds, and then instead of the third round starting with the person that picked first, they will immediately go back to the person that picked last. Now, the idea of this, and we'll show the big board here in a second how it kind of turned out, is to make teams more fair so that, what we've seen, and predominantly people that are way smarter than me that understand spreadsheets have shown that the person with the first pick has an advantage over the person with the 12th pick, and it's pretty statistical anomaly of how that works. And so when you're looking at it, it's like, hey, maybe we can do this third down reverse while I looked out. So we want to show you things a little bit different. We're going to be talking about a kind of a debate that this mock draft sparked on Twitter. And so we're going to look at it. So let's go to the rounds 1 through 3 and just kind of look at the board. So here's how it looks. And if you could tell, so when you go through it after Diggs, so after the first pick, then it goes over until the third round there. So you'll see Psych Ward, 12th pick, he took Tua, A.J. Brown, and then he got Higgins. So that's how kind of the reversal works. But we're just looking at the board. I think the biggest thing is, quarterbacks up the board, Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Jackson, Burrow. Now, we're going to talk about Herbert and Burrow here in a minute. But overall, I mean, Jefferson going with the 103, that's as early as I've seen him go. And that's Boyd's. He's always going to take him there. Jonathan Taylor, first running back of the board at 107. Hurts fell to 108, and I thought that was a value. So I didn't want to pick me for every time. But I think that's a value there. And Lawrence, I really like that start for me there. Fields at the 109 seems good. Murray seems like, hey, a value there. And then Chase Waddle there with Jacob's team. Now, my biggest value change I want to look at, if you look at Garrett Wilson with a 208, but wide receiver 5. So, or excuse me, I can't count. Wide receiver 6. So we haven't seen Wilson go that high, that wide receiver 5, 7, 8 range, like 6 range. We haven't seen him there, right? So I think one big value change you start to see is Wilson going there. And I think that's the thing with Dynasty, when we're seeing kind of how these guys are ranked, like Wilson has been jumping up the board. So keep that in mind when we're thinking of like Dynasty value. He is still like, and I love Wilson. Wilson is my wide receiver 1. He's going to stay my wide receiver 1 like always, just in terms of like his value of this class. I always thought he was there. But when you're thinking of who he is, he's going to be a little bit capped by that quarterback play, right? We don't know what that quarterback play is going to look like. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, he's getting valued as wide receiver 8 right now on Keep Trade Cut, but just in general, he had a big value change. Next one, my favorite pick was DK. DK in the third round, I think, and especially the late third when you're looking at where he went because of the third round reversal. Like, give me DK and that value all day. I understand the guys went ahead of him. I probably wouldn't take him. I'm still in the DK over Amon-Ra St. Brown camp, so I think that was kind of a reach there. I don't want to say a reach. Like, I like Amon-Ra. I just like DK's talent overall. But that's my favorite pick. My least favorite pick is probably Travis Etienne. We've seen him really struggle here down the stretch. Where he went with who was still on the board, Barkley, Walker, McCaffrey. I'd probably still lean Walker in that scenario. And Walker went almost a full round behind him there, right? So, and even the other guys, Higgins, I like building through my wide receivers. There's other guys I feel like could have been there. I understand Etienne's value where it's at, but just in terms of where I think other guys should have been, I think that was a little bit of a reach just based on what we've seen. Now, the one thing I do want to talk about, I do want you guys to put in the chat. What do you think here with this? So we had a big disagreement between two people. So Justin Herbert went at the 104, and then Burrow went at the 106. And there was kind of a disagreement between, like, hey, who should be more valued? So what do we think here? So should it be Herbert or should it be Burrow in terms of who should go ahead of one or the other? And when you're just looking overall, now I did a couple things just kind of see what happened. So I threw a poll up after this. I said, hey, you're on the clock in Superflex Dynasty Startup. Who are you drafting, Burrow or Herbert? And it was 66% that leaned Joe Burrow over Justin Herbert. So, and that's almost 2,000 votes in terms of just the Dynasty community and what they're thinking. And I want to know what you guys think. So, like, what do you think? Should Herbert or Burrow be going first here? Now, on Keep Trade Cut, Burrow is ranked as QB4, Herbert's QB5, so it's pretty close in terms of where they're getting valued. Now, getting Hurts after them based on what Hurts has been doing, probably MVP type season, I think is a value for me. But what do we think? And when you're looking at just the overall numbers, Burrow is averaging 23 points per game, fantasy points. He is QB4 on the year, not counting this week. So right now, we're recording this, week 15. But we haven't put those numbers in yet. So when we see that, okay, after obviously we haven't seen that. But right now, Burrow is QB4. Herbert is QB12, averaging 18 fantasy points per game, and he's really hindered by those weapons. And so one big argument is Burrow has better weapons. He's going to have Chase, Higgins, those guys. I'm going to roll with him. Somebody said, hey, Herbert's a better talent. I'm going to go with him. Allen, those guys. Yes, he's getting older. Mike Williams is still there. They're going to draft a wide receiver, Addison, JSN, someone like that in the draft. So there's big question marks here. So who do you feel more comfortable with rolling in a dynasty? Let me know what you guys think there. I don't really have to me personally, I think Herbert's a better talent, so I would probably go with Herbert. But I don't fault people for going for Burrow. So for me, I'm kind of wishy-washy here. So that's why I want you guys to decide. Tell me in the comments, who do you think should go there? Now, rounds 4 through 6. So if we're going to look at rounds 4 through 6 and what they look like, not a ton of surprises off the board. I thought Olave was a very good value there when you're looking through. Jacobs at the 4. Watson went a little early. So my least favorite pick, and this isn't because, I don't like Watson. I just thought it was a little early. And now people seem to like him. Like I took Pittman, Marquise Brown was right there. Pickens, Devonta Smith, Godwin. I just think Watson's kind of getting valued a little bit higher than I would like personally. Now, you might like to take him. I know there's guys on social media and in the chat when we were talking about this, they said, no, I'll take this over that. I see Watson getting a little bit value, a little bit too early here. Now, my favorite pick is Jameson Williams. We saw Jameson Williams today, if you're watching this, or yesterday, if you're watching this, when it releases, score his first touchdown. I think Jameson Williams is going to be a value, and get him in the 5th round. I think that was incredible value there. I thought they did a good job of drafting him there. And then we have, biggest value driver is Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks going to the 4th round now. We haven't seen that in all season, right? All during the Dynasty season and just seeing this. So we're seeing these values. So I did want to highlight the rookie wide receivers of this class because we're starting to see that. We see Garrett Wilson pop up, right? Now we're seeing Christian Watson. Now we're seeing Jameson Williams, Treylon Burks. We see Olave there. So Olave got drafted right before Burks. And me personally, I'm still taking probably Jameson over Burks. So if I can get a round value there, like some of these other guys did, and then get Jameson in the 5th, I think that's kind of the move. But I do like what Burks has been able to do. I think they're going to be hinted in that offense, though, right? So give me Jameson in that high-flying offense. And then you see Christian Watson. Then if you air it out, just like look at the quarterback situation. Russell Wilson going to 5'10". We've been talking about that second quarterback in Superflex. Where do you go? Pickett at the 6'10". Cousins, 6'11", right? Derek Carr. So when you're looking at where the value is at, not a lot of value to be had with those quarterback spots. Mike Evans, look at him. I think that's a pretty good value for him as well. Now, round 7 through 9, let's take a look at what it looks like here. What's going on? And I think this is where it gets a little tricky. We're seeing a lot of value in these ranges. So right now, I think when you're looking at it, my biggest value changes I saw is Alvin Kamara. So if you look at where Kamara is going right now in leagues, he's going a lot lower than we thought. 802, y'all. So he's looking at that 802 mark. And I think that, with his game, I understand that he hasn't been necessarily performed in PPR leagues like we wanted him to this season. And I think that's what people are really questioning. He's averaging about 14.5 fantasy points per game. He's running back 16 in PPR formats. But if you can get a guy like Kamara, think of some values out there that we've seen. And Kamara is the type of runner. He's not like Ezekiel Elliott. He's not like those guys that you're worried about taking that load, right? Because he still doesn't get the volume that you'd like to see. And I think that's what people are worried about. But we still see 68 targets this year, right? So we're still thinking of pretty good floor for him. So as a running back too, if you're one of those dynasty guys that like to wait on running backs, or you draft like an anchor running back like I do, if you can get Kamara in the 8th or 9th round, I still think that's a value heading into next season, right? If you're building a win now team, I think that's a good value, and that's kind of how you go. And then for Brian Robinson to go ahead of him, I think that just shows you kind of where his value is at right now. Now, my favorite pick is Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley, what we've seen Trevor Lawrence. I believe Trevor Lawrence has now finished his QB1 in the last 7-11 weeks. We're seeing Lawrence do very well. So if Calvin Ridley is going to step in there, and the last time we saw Calvin Ridley play, Calvin Ridley is a wide receiver 2. I'm not going to say he's a wide receiver 1 because we haven't seen him for a while and what he's been able to do, but he's a wide receiver 2 option. If he goes on that Jacksonville team and Lawrence is playing the way he's doing in that offense, Ridley's going to be a value in these startups, and he's probably pretty cheap on the trade market. When I was going through just the trades with him, you could get him for a late second right now, and that's kind of what a couple of people were talking about. My guy Nick Script, PTW Fantasy. If you don't follow him, go follow him. He asked, who is that value? Kind of go grab. I think Ridley is there, especially if you're kind of a rebuilder team. He's getting valued right now as wide receiver 38. He's 27 years old. I think he's still got 2 or 3 good years left as a wide receiver 2 in that offense with Trevor Lawrence. I'm all aboard that. I think that's a good pick there. My least favorite pick is just Alec Pierce because I just don't think Alec Pierce is very good. I think Alec Pierce is fine. I just think that offense isn't very good. I just don't want him on my roster. I think Rondale's a good pick there. Tyler Lockett, those guys. I think Alec Pierce, you're drafting at a ceiling here, and there's not a lot of value to be had with him. I think he's okay. He's an okay fantasy asset, but he's not one that I'm really relying on. So that's my least favorite pick. Out of the other guys, though, again, if you're looking at the quarterback situation, only 2 or 3 quarterbacks, or 4, when you look into this area, are getting drafted in these rounds, 7, 8, and 9. Stafford, question mark. Daniel Jones looked awful today, question mark. Mac Jones, what is he, question mark, right? So Geno Smith, what are these guys? I think that is the biggest thing I want you guys to start taking away is this. Go shore up your quarterback position in your dynasty leagues. You need to do that. Now, last rounds here, we're looking at 10 through 12. Here are some other groups here. The biggest value change here is Isaiah Pacheco's in the top now. So when you're looking at what Isaiah Pacheco's been able to do, he's gotten into that top 12 range and top 12 rounds is what I'm talking about. We haven't seen Pacheco in these. I've been doing these mocks all offseason. I haven't been posting to YouTube, but we've been doing them all to kind of gain value and help out our Patreon. And when you're looking at this, like you're just seeing Pacheco's value is rising. And it's going up. And you're looking at this week, 13 carries, 70 yards. Now, McKinnon had those 2 touchdowns. He had 112 yards and 7 receptions. So McKinnon looked very good in the receiving area. But in terms of rushing wise, 13 carries, 70 yards. Like we've seen Isaiah go there. So you're going to see that value go. Now, my favorite pick is Desmond Ridder. Ridder looks like he's going to be getting the start next week. And so when we're thinking of Ridder, what could he be as far as that QB2 in Dynasty? If you're getting him in the 11th round, and Tom Brady right there in the 11th round. Like Brady's probably coming back another year based on it. He's got a new girlfriend. He's happy. Then you got Desmond Ridder right there, who if he does well and the Falcons say, hey, this could be our guy going forward, you have another run dual threat quarterback that can be a solid QB2 in your league. And you're getting him probably as your 3rd quarterback in the 11th round. Love that value. That was my favorite pick. My least favorite pick is just going to be Kadarius Toney because he can't play. He cannot play. This guy cannot stay on the field. His hamstrings. He has not been able to do it. And I think that's something that you have to just take away from. I think that's something you just have to realize is that Kadarius Toney is just can't get on the field. So until he can, I don't see why you need to draft him. I understand their upside. You're in the 10th, 11th, 12th round. He went in the 11th round here. But I just looking at just the prospects of him, I want to question. And no, this is a mock. I'm not questioning, but I drafted him. I'm just warning. Like he's not a guy that I'm going to risk it on. In my opinion, he's just not there. You know, Sky Moore went after him. You're looking at Mechie. I love that Mechie pick, by the way. You know, he probably was my favorite pick. Otherwise, Mechie right now, I highlighted him in my Football Guys YouTube show when I was talking about it. I said, Mechie's a guy to go grab. God willing, it looks like his recovery is doing well. I think that the Texans are going to have a better quarterback next year, probably Bryce. Imagine him and Mechie again together. Like John Mechie is the guy to go grab in Dynasty right now because of the value that he's had and projecting forward what he can be, right? Now, my final outlook here, let's look at all the teams. So we're just going to take a look at all the teams here. I'm going to highlight a few teams that I really like, and we're going to go through kind of what they did, and then we'll get out of here. So here's my first team I want to highlight. You know, I thought JCJ Dynasty did a good job, and I think this is a very good, team to show you win now. Like, I really think he went out there and grabbed some value at the beginning. So you got Burrow and Watson, and that's a pretty good formula duo. Watson hasn't looked great, but I do think next year after the year off, after he's kind of got into it, he'll be all right. Then you got Kelsey and Eckler, and I think Kelsey and Eckler are 2 very solid pieces. DJ Moore, he should get a quarterback upgrade. I don't know. We'll see. Then you got Dalvin. I think you're going for it there with him, right? Judy had 3 touchdowns. Williams, you're looking at what he's been able to do. I thought this was an interesting build in terms of like win now, and he's going for it. So he's either going to go for it and go get it, or he's going to get the first pick next year, and he'll draft, he's got the Caleb Williams, or he'll trade it for more value, right? I thought that was an interesting way to kind of build his roster. Now, my favorite team, a team I really like, is this team. You got Allen Diggs stacked. Then you got CMC Swift in the 4th. And I don't care what you think of Swift, getting him there. And I think that he didn't go. He got a top-end wide receiver, and then he was able to flip it around and get 2 running backs in that 3rd and 4th round that are pass catching that will just eat up PPR. Then Dallas Goedert, McLaurin. I think those are great options there. And McLaurin as a wide receiver too with Diggs is a great pairing. Geno's a little iffy, but you're going to do that if you're going to not take 2 quarterbacks in the first 2 or 3 rounds in this format. Brian Robinson is an interesting pick there, like we talked about. I probably wouldn't win Kamara, but I don't hate it. Then Lockett and Mooney. Mooney could be a wide receiver 1 again on Chicago. You have Lockett there who just scores touchdowns. That's all the guy does. And then Elijah Mitchell and Mechie. Like I said, Elijah, if he can stay healthy, he's a value. Mechie, I really like. So I really like this team. And then when I was looking at another team to kind of highlight, I liked how TK built his team here. Kyler Murray, Lamb. I know we talked about Amon-Ra, but that's not a bad pick with his team build. Ramondre could be a running back 1 and Devonta. Like, that is a very solid group. Kenny is like, hey, you got to reach on quarterbacks. So this is one of those things we're talking about. If you're not going to take one of those quarterbacks in the first couple rounds, you're going to have to reach on a guy like that. Derrick Henry there, boom. Okay, Derrick Henry is he's unbreakable. That dude is just not going to ever get hurt. Kmet, Cole Kmet, he's good. Miles Sanders in the 9th still, it's not going to happen anymore after what he's been doing. The fact that Miles Sanders is still going in the 9th and 10th round is just ridiculous out there, and that's something to look at when you think of dynasty rankings. And then Peoples-Jones, I liked him. Brady and Harris. Like, I thought you did a great job with this. You're probably my favorite roster in this draft and just in general. I really liked the way you did it. So there's our outlook for the top 12 rounds. When you're looking at what everybody did, you can see my team right there. I had the 108, and I liked it. I kind of went for a win now piece with some running backs there and kind of build through some youth. I took Cam in the 11th. Hey, we're going to roll with Cam Akers. I appreciate you there. So we appreciate you guys tuning in to the channel. Seriously, hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know what you guys think. Who had your favorite pick or your favorite team? Or let me know, Herbert or Burrow. Where are we going with this? Is it that clear cut 60-30, or should it be closer? And how do you feel about that? How strong do you feel? Hit that like and subscribe button. Let us know in the comments who you want out of that duo. We'll check you guys next time.